Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today's discussion is about NightWings, more specifically the future of the tribe, because I think it's fair to say that they've had a slightly turbulent history in the timeline of Wings of Fire, especially during the War of Sandwing Succession. They've been through a lot, probably more than any other tribe. So we'll be discussing what their future looks like, and also how their very unique situation may impact the RainWings. And so this video was originally supposed to be about just the NightWings specifically, but as I was thinking about and writing this prediction, I realized that RainWings are also very relevant and very important in this prediction. So it's going to be mostly about NightWings, but also RainWings are going to be mentioned quite a lot in this video. But before we get into that, I think we need to briefly go over the recent history of the NightWings to get a better understanding of what exactly is going on as of the end of Arc 3. If you think you understand the timeline very well, feel free to skip to the timestamp on the screen, because the last thing I want to do is to waste your time. If we rewind back to the brightest night and the dark secret, we know that while the volcano was erupting on the Nightwing Island, the Nightwings were forced to flee to the rainforest, which they were already planning on taking that over anyways, but they had to surrender to the Rainwings. The new Rainwing Queen Glory generously but reluctantly let them stay as long as they were under her rule, foreseeably, no pun intended. The Nightwings weren't too happy about having a Rainwing as their queen, but with no other options, they had to surrender. And plus, I think we can all agree that the hellish wasteland that was the island pales in comparison to the luscious rainforest. So as time went on, for the rest of Arc 1 and 2, the Nightwings developed their own small little village in their own section of the rainforest. It is also probably worth mentioning as well that when Darkstalker visited the rainforest after being accidentally set free by Peril, he managed to persuade quite a large portion of the Nightwing population to come with him to the old Nightwing Kingdom on the Talon Peninsula. After the events of Arc 2 and Darkstalker's eventual defeat, most of the Nightwings that had followed Darkstalker returned back to the rainforest, back to Queen Glory, although a very small portion of those Nightwings actually decided to stay on the Talon Peninsula in the old Nightwing Kingdom, and they were led by FierceTeeth, who is Starflight's sister. So in the guidebook, we see FierceTeeth's letter to Starflight, where she tells Starflight that there are 27 Nightwings at the encampment, and that they are essentially starting to revive the old Nightwing Kingdom. Now that we understand the situation of the Nightwings, I'm going to share my prediction on what might happen to the Nightwing tribe over the course of the next few hundred or even thousands of years. Of course, it is definitely possible that in Arc 4 something may happen canonically to the Nightwing tribe, which could throw a curveball into my predictions, but for simplicity's sake, let's just assume that nothing really happens, and I can just go ahead. Let's start with the dragons in the rainforest. So, in Winter Turning, while the Jade Winglet was searching for Icicle, I kind of got the impression while reading it that the Nightwings were becoming less annoyed and starting to finally accept the reality that their queen was just a Rainwing dragonette, and they were finally starting to settle into the rainforest. And I think it's safe to say that as time goes on, the Nightwing tribe will slowly recover in population, and their village will begin to expand. More significantly, I think that the tribes, being the Rainwings and the Nightwings, will begin to mix because they're both in the rainforest. I think it's bound to happen. I mean, that probably won't happen in the next few years because the Rainwings will probably just try and distance themselves from the Nightwings, since, you know, the Nightwings tried to take over the rainforest. But I think with time, they'll be able to reconcile, and eventually cases of night rain hybrids will increase until it eventually becomes normal. And kind of similar to what happened on Pantala, something like what happened with Clearsight and the Beetlewings would happen, meaning that a whole new tribe would form. It's even starting to happen in kind of our current point of timeline, because we see in Moon's vision, we see a dragonette that looks like a NightWing RainWing hybrid, which is presumably Deathbringer and Glory's dragonette. And there's also PeaceMaker, who is a RainWing NightWing hybrid. An argument could be made that PeaceMaker doesn't really count because he was made with magic, but it'd be making Night Rain hybrids seem more common and potentially accelerate hybrid growth, because it would be viewed as more accepted if it's more common. Now, based on what we know about the evolution of Pantalan tribes, I would bet that it would take maybe around 1,000 years to 2,000 years for the two tribes in the rainforest to completely combine, assuming that they start having more hybrids within the next couple centuries. I mean, it's hard to say, but I think these are some pretty reasonable guesses. What does this mean then? Well, for the RainWings, they'll probably go extinct, unfortunately, kind of like the beetle wings. Their genes will be there, yes, but with every century, the more hybrids there are, the fewer and fewer pure RainWings there will be. So you may be thinking, won't the NightWings go extinct too? Won't the same thing happen to the NightWings? Well, not really, because this is why I mentioned the group on the Talon Peninsula earlier, because the NightWings in the rainforest, those aren't all the NightWings. There's still a small population of NightWings on the Talon Peninsula. It's kind of like the NightWing tribe has been split into two. So the NightWings on the peninsula will reproduce fully pure, well, obviously not fully pure because there's some Icewing in there. I mean, very little, but there's still some, but you know what I mean. And their tribe will likely on the peninsula develop into somewhat a resemblance of what the Night Kingdom used to look like within the next couple thousand years. And then the NightWings in the rainforest will be just like the RainWings, where those NightWings will combine with the RainWings, and then there will be no more pure NightWings in the rainforest. But we have to remember that there will still be normal NightWings on the peninsula. It'd be kind of like it'd end up being sort of like what it was in Darkstalker's era, where there's the super advanced NightWings on the peninsula, and it's kind of the exact same tribe-wise, except instead of there being RainWings in the rainforest, there's this Night Rain tribe. And also I'm sure that there would also be some Pantalan tribes on Pyria, because, I don't know, maybe they didn't want to fly back to Pantala or something, which I think is completely reasonable. But yeah, that's kind of how this whole thing would end up. So feel free to comment down your own predictions for the NightWing tribe, and I hope you found this video at least a little bit interesting, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.